get some shots for commercials and stuff, but nothing. It wasn't meant to be on TV because he broke his foot like at the very, very, very end, which is why they didn't air the whole thing from the dress rehearsal, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point he was already broken.
Right.
But Brandon Dixon I was underwhelmed by him at points, but there were times where he was really, really awesome. Just because I had seen him in something else and I knew what he's capable of, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, Chris Warren, isn't he from Hamilton as well? Wasn't he in Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yep.
Chris Warren.
I haven't seen Hamilton yet, but that's because tickets are impossible to get. So
Milwaukee 2020. That's already on my calendar.
I got season tickets when it came to LA just to make sure I got Hamilton tickets.
Well, there you go.
That was smart.
Yeah. Milwaukee 2020. Anyway, which we've been negative, which jump over to a positive. When we're talking about people in the quote-unquote dress rehearsal performance, I think someone forgot to tell Vanessa Hudgens that this is a dress rehearsal, because she was amazing.
Yep.
Oh my God. Over the Moon, that might have been one of the most best renditions of that I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like she almost brought the cast to life at points because she was just unbelievable. She's the top of my list. She's my first positive.
Yeah, that and
she was my number 3 positive, so
yeah,
unanimous.
Amazing! I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I know you're right. She did wake everybody up when Over the Moon started.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure.
And she made it her own with like the laying on the floor and rolling around and everything.
Yeah,
it was unique.
Exactly.
I mean, Blake knows this, but I'm a music teacher, and I also, I direct our school musicals and stuff too. So I always tell my students, don't try to copy what somebody else did. Make it your own. And she 100% did that.
Yeah.
Using that logic, and this isn't in my positives, but using your logic, I thought the guy who played Mark was fantastic as well.
I loved him.
He was my number 1 positive.
There
so
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the best narrator I expected, because I knew going in there was going to be something, and I remember on the Rent movie DVD commentary track, Chris Columbus said he had a hard time trying to explain the story because when you in the Broadway show, in the playbill, you have that sheet that explains who everybody is, and they had to rely on Mark in this show to explain to the home audience that doesn't know the show who everybody is and what they mean to each other.
Right.
And I thought he did an amazing job.
And not only was he able to do that, but it didn't feel like he was doing that, just for the sake.
No, he was having fun.
Right.
Yeah. He didn't stop smiling.
And in La Vie Boheme, he stepped onto the table. I was like, how are his legs that long? Like, he didn't jump. He was just dancing so much, he just stepped right up and kept on going.
And I don't know if you guys noticed, but he had real tears right after I'll Cover You reprise. When he comes out to do Halloween, he's still crying.
Right, when he says, like, that's poetic, that's pathetic, that was great.
Yeah, exactly. Another man that realized, okay, we have an audience here. I'm going to put on my best show for this audience. And that's what he did.
Yeah, he did.
So, Rob, I sold one of your positives without trying.
It happens.
I didn't even think about that.
You stole one of my negatives, too, but that's okay.
Well, then
I have others.
Well, why don't you jump over to another one of your negatives then, so we kind of stole one of your positives.
This one's minor. It was more about the staging. I think Roger was good, but he would have been better on stage. Like, up close, he was a little too, like, big for the camera. Mm-hmm. Like, his emotions, it was more like he was acting to the audience instead of to the camera, even when it was close up.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so some of it was a little much when it went in for, like, an extreme close-up, and he's screaming Mimi. I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'll back up from my television.
I get that. I felt that a couple of times too, and from the movie too. I felt that like when I'm backtracking. Obviously, this has nothing to do with the movie, but like I felt like a lot of them, because they were the original cast from the show, had to almost underdo it because they're not used to acting in front of a camera that close to them.
I agree with that. But I didn't think about. Oh, well, we're going with something minor. I'll give you one that Mandy gave me, and it didn't bother me, but it really bothered her, so I'm bringing it up for her. And it was during Will I. She did not like the camera work in that song. like at all. Like when they were doing these like I was almost saying like they were trying to show Mark's perspective of his camera, and they were just going all the way around the circle in the stage, which I love the stage, and they went all the way around the stage, and she was actually getting sick. Like it was making her nauseous. Like it was driving her nuts. So a little minor thing I brought up from her.
That's funny because that was one of my positives. I actually liked the staging. I liked the candles that they had behind that. I liked the way that whole thing was set up in Will I. So that was one of my positives. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, that was something I wrote down for her. So
yeah, I liked a lot of the camera work, especially when the cameraman is clearly the camera is clearly in between singers in the middle of the stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Except when they went around like that runway around the outside, where there's like audience on both sides of them. Then some of the angles were a little off, and it made it too much about the live audience, and that audience on the floor was very noisy and distracting.
Did it feel like at times, I know for me I was enjoying this fact, but like I know a lot of people were complaining that it felt like Rent in concert instead of Rent live. Like did that feel like that?
It almost felt like two things. The audience on the outside felt like a theater audience. They were sitting there having a good time, not barely interacting. The audience on the floor was like they were in a live concert, cheering along and getting into specific moments a little too much.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I agree.
Okay.
No, I totally agree with that. There were times where it was like, because it's hard, because you have to remember, like, obviously we're not in a theater, so like they're gonna react differently. But like having been to so many, it's like nobody screams like that at a Broadway show, especially at like those moments.
It almost felt like, did either one of you see the Wicked Halloween special?
Yes, I did. I loved it.
It felt like that was meant to be a concert. That was meant to be what it was. And that audience was amazing on that night. I almost felt like people coming here thought this was going to be that at times.
Yeah.
Which is not, for me, was fun, but like I could see where people had a problem with it.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
I agree.
Well, let's see here. I only have one more positive because we did not cover you, Reprise, and Vanessa. I want to say life support for me in this version, I loved. I loved the meeting. I loved the fact that they did the song the way they did, and also like they brought Kia Settle in to that. I didn't expect her there. I didn't expect her in that performance. Yeah. But I also, and I'll say this, and I know this is going to drive some people crazy because it goes with life support. I loved the redo of Seasons of Love that they did at the intermission version of it. I loved it because it was the life support version with Mark starting the song. I really like that a lot, and I know it's going to go against like traditional versions of Seasons of Love, but I almost think they did that knowing they were going to end the show with the traditional Seasons of Love. Like, yeah. I don't know how you guys feel about that, Em. What do you think?
At the time, it bothered me, but then when we ended and I saw why, I was like, oh, okay.
That makes sense.
If I had to go through this to get to see the original cast, it's fine.
Exactly. And you know what? I liked it because it was different. And if you're going to change something and do something original with something, and that's a song everybody knows, you might as well try something and see if it works. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of like the staging. I don't know if I loved it, but one thing I did like with the life support, the group, is the casting. Because usually on stage, it's a bunch of like the young actors that are playing all the other parts, but they had some older people.
Yes.
And like it was more variety visually and a bigger group than you usually get. And so it made it feel almost more like a real life support meeting, like an actual crowd that's there to sit together. And it was nice.
And I also
the age.
All right, sorry, Em, go.
No, I was going to say the age differences really made it feel more real.
Yeah.
And I also liked having Anthony Rapp bring us back from the break, kind of setting up what this meeting is more than even they were doing in the show. I like that too. So.
Did you guys catch the Anthony Rapp sweater that came out in Love?
Excuse me, Christmas bells. I cracked up. I didn't expect that. That was very, very funny. So,
and obviously some of the audience caught it too because you heard them cheer the moment it came out.
and And then the Fox Twitter account immediately put it up like, I wonder whose sweater that is.
I saw that. I was like, really?
Oh, it was funny as hell to me. So, give me another positive. Go for it.
Well, we kind of did most of mine.
Fair enough.
Mine was, I love Vanessa Hudgens. I'll Cover You reprise. Will I like the way they staged that.
Okay.
That was my 3.
Okay, Rob, you got another one for us?
Positive?
Yeah.
She made a few weird singing choices, but I liked Mimi.
Okay.
What's her name? Tanashi?
Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, she was, unlike a couple of the people, it didn't feel like they were acting as much, even though they're going to be up close on camera. And she, kind of like Mark, was into where she was. She understood it was both. It was there's cameras on her, and she's got to perform for the audience. And so she put some emotion into it, and she looked like she was actually doing stuff. And she took advantage of part of the set I didn't like otherwise with those long walkways. And so did Mark, where they'd like walk down it as they're singing something, and it made it feel like they're actually out on a street, which is hard to do on stage because you don't have the space.
Her, she took advantage of the Out Tonight. Like, they almost set up perfectly for Out Tonight for her. That was well done.
Yeah, that was great. She did a great job.
So, all right, I have one more negative that I am going to say this. I did not like the lyric changes in La Vie Boheme, and I understood why they changed some of that song, but it drove me crazy as someone who loves that song.
Right.
So
I didn't understand all of them. Some of them that they changed, I was like, you left this in, but you took this out? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
And also, because they were singing so fast, and this might be a part of the dress rehearsal thing, I didn't understand what was going on during that song. Most of it. Like, and I'm a huge person when it comes to, like, I'm a Hamilton fan, so my speed listening is fantastic now. And I had no idea what they were saying half the time when during the new lyrics.
I just saw a link today, but I didn't get a chance to watch it, they just released the concert version that they did Sunday night live.
I'm going to have to
So
watch that.
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see what they did and see if it's different.
Yeah. So, okay. Rob, any other negatives you want to throw out there?
Well, going on that one, changes in lyrics, the big one that bothered me was when Roger should say, you pretend to create and observe when you're really detached from feeling alive. He said, like, you pretend to know how we feel. I'm like, that doesn't even fit the music.
I didn't even catch that.
It was so weird. And I was like, that doesn't work at all.
Wow. No, I didn't even catch that one. That's bad. Like, I liked, like, a couple of them changing lyrics around to fit their voice. Like, I know, like, Benny did that during You'll See, where he changed some lyrics around to fit his voice, which is fine if you're telling him the same story. But you're right, now I didn't even catch that. Wow.
Oh, and the other one, I should have died 6 months ago.
Right.
Yeah, they changed it.
I was like, why?
That doesn't make sense. Why did you change that? That the time difference made no sense to me
Like,
at all.
I understand why they take out dildos. I don't understand why they changed it to 6 months ago.
Oh, and speaking of changes that I didn't quite get, during Contact, I was listening to Contact specifically to hear what they were going to take out, and the only word they took out was harder.
Yep.
That's the only one.
After La Vie Boheme, I didn't think they were even going to do Contact.
Same here.
Right.
I was wondering.
When I heard when the music started, I was like, okay, so are they going to do words or what's going to happen here?
I thought it
We're
was
just
going
going
to
to
be
hear the
instrumental.
music, and then it was basically the same song except for the word harder.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Like, I thought they were going to do, like, something creative where they play the music and it's, like, an instrumental, like, dance thing just so they can kill off Angel. Like, I thought that they were going to do... And they started singing the song. I'm like, what? How are they getting away with this?
Yeah.
Now, did you like the staging of that, the ending of Contact?
I actually did.
I didn't.
I wasn't a fan of it, but I was already bothered because when Angel got up, his sheet for some reason wasn't on him, like it had slipped off, and so they had to lift it up, and it just made it this awkward transition.
Oh, geez.
And then he went into this weird dancing where people were holding him. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Whatever. Just go with it.
They did Contact, you know.
They did
Yeah,
Contact.
something.
Unexpected. That was the one song I figured they cut.
Because I've seen the show without Contact when Cal State LA did it. I saw it 3 times there, and they did the high school version where it's